If you're new to portrait photography, these 5 tips I'm about to share with you will help you understand how professionals get stunning images. In fact, these are things that I've learned over a decade ago that allowed me to photograph anyone in any situation and get amazing results. You could continue doing things the way that you're doing them now, or you could follow these tips and enjoy some shortcuts that I wish I knew when I started out. Make sure you watch this video until the end so you could have the entire roadmap to get you started. The first thing you need to do to take better portraits is to take an ocular assessment. If you're a fan of the TV show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, this idea might sound familiar. In portrait photography, an ocular assessment is the process of visually evaluating several factors before you put the camera to your face to take a photo. Newbie photographers are often swept up with everything and miss details that can either help them to take a better portrait or absolutely sabotage their results. The first thing that I do as part of the ocular assessment is to evaluate the location. What about the location is interesting? Do the colors of my surroundings complement my subject's wardrobe? Am I able to tell some kind of a story that might make my photos more interesting? Why would my subject be there in that location? How is the lighting? These are just a few of the things that I ask myself as I prepare to start shooting. The ocular assessment extends to your subject as well. You want to make sure you're paying attention to the details. Make sure that everything that they're wearing, the way that their clothing is styled, the makeup, their hairstyle, everything that they have, all of it, make sure that it all goes together correctly. Slow down and perform this crucial step to get things started on the right footing. Not performing this ocular assessment will have you wasting time taking images that will be forgotten the moment that you take them. Before we get into the second tip, make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you want to learn more about portrait photography, remember to leave a like on this video as well, as it helps it to get recommended to other photographers here on YouTube. With that said, let's keep it going. The next thing you should do if you're new to portrait photography is to get inspired the right way. Many of the great artists that came before you were inspired by some of the all-time greats that came before them, and even some of their contemporaries. Vincent van Gogh, for example, was inspired by the works of Monet. Rembrandt was inspired by the works of Caravaggio. As a portrait photographer, it's important to gain inspiration from the greats that came before you. Check out the works of Richard Avedon, Diane Arbus, Irving Penn, Marco Grob, and Michael Muller, just to name a few. They are some of my favorites, and they have an extensive body of work to learn from. Pay close attention to how they pose their subjects, how they manipulate light, and how they tell stories that bring their portraits to life. Check out documentaries and invest in books where they share insights into their processes. The things that you'll learn from the best to ever do it will no doubt help you rise above the rest. Avoid the trap that most newbie photographers fall into of either not having an inspiration at all or turning some local photographer that no one has ever heard of into their idol. I've seen this far too often, and it could seriously set you back for years to come. Hey, this next tip is very important, and it's something that I wish someone told me when I started out. Get comfortable with the idea of outsourcing. In the world of portrait photography, you'll spend a lot of time preparing and executing your photo shoots, but it's not over when your subject leaves. You still have to sit down and spend time color correcting and retouching your work to give it that signature look that people will hopefully spend the big bucks on. With that said, you could spend hours retouching your own work, or you can look to outsource that process to someone that has dedicated their time and their talent to making images look their best. One of the best business minds of all time, Peter Drucker, once famously said, "Do what you do best and outsource the rest." It's a quote that stuck with me for a long time. I enjoy the process of editing my own work, but the reality is that the amount of time that I spend working on my images is time that I could spend doing other things. Spending time with family, learning new skills, researching and understanding how my gear works, attending workshops, making YouTube videos for you. These are all things that I'd have less time to do if I didn't outsource some of my work. This leads us to a logical question. Where do you find people to work on your images? I have some videos coming out on this topic soon, but the short answer is to search for them on places like Instagram, Behance, and maybe consider trying out some of the new AI tools that are out there. Outsourcing your portraits to get the most out of every pixel that you captured is sage advice that nearly every professional photographer that's at the top of their game, they all follow this advice, so consider doing the same. Next up, and this might be the most valuable tip, adopt a student mindset. As you get deeper into the world of portrait photography, some of your friends, your family members, and other people in your circle are going to inflate your ego. They're going to tell you how good your work is, and maybe even begin telling other people as they introduce you that you're a master at what you do. While it might feel good to hear, the worst thing that you could possibly do as a newbie portrait photographer is to buy into your own hype. There are so many layers to portrait photography that we will never get into in our lifetime, but that shouldn't stop us from going after it. Albert Einstein once said, "Wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it." So many photographers starting out learn a few things here and there, and once they get comfortable with those few skills, they just stop learning. They stop growing in the wisdom of photography. With technology changing all the time and new tools coming to the market pretty much at a rapid pace, you either stay curious and attempt to learn, or you get complacent in your ways. Don't stop pursuing wisdom. Don't stop learning new things, even if it challenges things that you thought you already knew really well. To this very day, even though many people may see me as a legend of light and various other titles that I've gained over the years, I still approach every day as someone who doesn't know the things that I know. There's often a lot of different ways to do the exact same thing, many of which give you wildly different results. Learn them all and keep them in your back pocket for whenever you need them. Hey, this next one is huge, and that's to know when to filter yourself. I can't count the number of times that I've heard newbie photographers say something that absolutely ruined their chances of taking a great photo. One time I watched a photographer as they worked with someone during a shoot. They were attempting to get them to pose in what I would call a ballet type of pose, but for several reasons that were pretty obvious to me on the outside, they just couldn't get into the pose. As the model was struggling to try and make the pose work, the photographer was basically making fun of the fact that they couldn't do what they thought was a simple pose. I could see that as soon as the model felt like the photographer was judging them, their confidence just went out the door. Every pose after that looked stiff, their expressions were uninspired, and regardless of the fancy equipment the photographer was using, they weren't going to get a good photo on that day. Worst of all, I'm not entirely sure the photographer realized what had happened. I'll be honest with y'all, I've made this mistake too many times. Not being self-aware of when and how to filter yourself to get the best performance out of other people, it's going to ruin your chances of graduating from newbie photographer status. My advice here is to be very careful with your words during a portrait session. Your humor and outlook on life may not mix well with the person in front of your lens, so try your best to say only enough to ensure that they understand your directions and your vision. Give them confidence and encouragement, especially when you notice they might be struggling at any point during the session. There are some other things you could do to take better portraits if you're starting out, so I suggest you check out this video to learn some more of the best techniques that I've come across in the last few years. I'll see you there.